What's up, people? Welcome back to FMall. It is me, Anwar. If this is your first time here, on one hand, FMall is a nod to the James Baldwin quote you saw at the intro. On the other hand, FMall is an acronym. It means 15 minutes or less, which is my pledge to keep you no longer than 15 minutes. I'm going to talk about some stuff going on in the world, some stuff happening in DC, some stuff happening here in Nevada where I live, and hopefully I can make you a little smarter in 15 minutes or less. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get to it, shall we? So in DC, by now, I'm sure you know that the shutdown is officially over. Things are starting to open back up. They are saying, I read somewhere that SNAP recipients have to reapply for the program, which I think is fucking ridiculous. Also, in DC, we've seen that Congress has voted and sent to Donald Trump's desk a resolution or a bill to release the Epstein files. I have shared my feelings on the Epstein files time and time again. I am not super invested in them because my question is still, once we find out who's in there and what they did, is there anything that we're going to do about it? Now listen, the victims, they all deserve closure. They all deserve justice. And that's my problem. Because they deserve justice. They deserve justice more than we deserve closure. And if there's no justice to follow us learning all of this, what does it do for us collectively? Since it seems like this stuff is going to come out anyway, I am hoping that the Department of Justice lives up to their name and actually brings people to justice. I'm hoping for justice for the victims. That's what I'm hoping for. But at the same time, I'm mindful. I know where I live. I live in America where we scream about law and order, but then we silently overlook infractions from people as long as they have enough money or influence or status. That's the reality. That's the America we live in. And I wish I could get more excited about these people finally getting it, but is anybody really going to get it? I hope they do. But at the same time, personally, I am not holding my breath. That's just me. I saw somewhere the other day that the stock market took a tumble, like a crazy ass tumble. Again, here's the reality. I take no joy in knowing that the stock market is plummeting. I take no joy in knowing that the average American is struggling. I am not happy about any of that, regardless of who's president, regardless of who controls Congress. I want everyone to be able to meet their needs. People should be able to get a job. Jobs should pay a living wage or a livable wage. You should be able to go to the doctor when you get sick. People should not be starving. I'm not happy to see Americans struggling because the president happens to be in the Republican Party or Congress happens to be controlled by the Republican Party. People suffering doesn't bring me joy because of who's in charge. If they were in charge and things were running well, I'd have nothing to say, but you know what? I don't like them, but they're doing shit right. But that's not the case. That's not the case at all. And again, I am not a Democrat. I got plenty shit to say about the Democrats. Matter of fact, we're going to talk about them in just a second. But the shit happening in Washington is a mess across the fucking board. That's just what it is. I'm not going to go too much deeper into it because I'm trying not to get pissed off. I don't want to scare the cat. Let's move on, shall we? So here in Nevada, in addition to Governor Joe Lombardo asking for a second term, he called Nevada's legislators back to Carson City for a special session last week. Now, I know I mentioned that because I thought it was going to end over the weekend. Turns out that session went all the way up until Wednesday of this week. Now, you had two bills that were the marquee bills of this special session. One was Assembly Bill 4, which is Joe Lombardo's crime bill. The other was Assembly Bill 5, which was the film tax credit bill. Let's talk about the two of those. Assembly Bill 4, the crime bill. The reason I hate the bill, again, it's almost as if this bill was pushed and a special session was called around this bill. Mind you, special sessions are supposed to be emergencies across the board. Crime has come down ever since the implementation of, I believe it was Assembly Bill 236 from, I believe, the 2023 session. Since then, crime has come down because when you create opportunity, when you create programs, and you give people things to do, they tend to commit less crime. People who aren't starving don't commit crimes. People who aren't looking for a roof over their head don't commit crimes. People who are not in crisis or peril usually don't commit crimes. Now, am I saying that every poor person is a criminal? Hell no. Am I saying that everyone who is not well off is somehow on the other side of the law? Absolutely not. But we've learned when you create opportunities, you reduce crime. Throwing people in jail in bulk numbers does not reduce crime. Putting people in prison for decades for silly shit does not reduce crime. It's a terrible deterrent, and we know this. Jackass Joe decided we need an emergency session for a crime bill because the emergency isn't that crime is rising, it's that we've run out of people to lock up. What the fuck? Now, the bill went back and forth. They got some amendments added to it for immigrant protections, which does matter. It is important. But even with the protections, the bill was a shit bill. In fact, this past weekend, when I told you the session was supposed to end, the Nevada Immigrant Coalition staged a protest outside of the legislative building because of the failure to protect and the implied intent to target more immigrants. I was actually at that protest. This is what it looked like.
We ain't here to play no games!
We ain't here to play no games!
We came here to fight for change!
We came here to fight for change!
We ain't silent, we ain't soft!
We ain't silent, we ain't soft!
We about to set it off!
We about to set it off!
Pause. Right there, it looked like I was leading them in a spirited chant and we were getting loud, right? It's like Anwar should run for something. I had a couple people tell me that, which was flattering. I didn't even know front. And then I had a Howard Dean moment, y'all. Here's Howard Dean for comparison's sake. Oh, what the hell was I doing? But on a serious note, y'all, this bill is still a bad bill. It targets marginalized people, lower income people, people of color, and it's not a crime bill, it's not a safety bill, it's a mass incarceration bill. The sad thing is that it passed not only the Assembly, but it passed the Senate too. So it's headed to Joe Lombardo's desk to become law. Sometimes you wonder who the fuck these people are fighting for. Sometimes you really wonder. Because they'll knock on my door and ask me for my vote. But then when people like me, who answered the door and heard that shit and then went and voted for them, when we go to session and say, don't support this bill because it's bad for our community, some of these shitbags turn around and pass the fucking thing anyway. And it's like, why on earth did you spend all that time asking me for my vote and making these promises if you weren't going to follow them? But this is why I constantly say that we need to become the candidates and the elected officials. Because counting on these people has failed us time and time again. And it doesn't matter which side you vote for. Because right now we have a majority in the Assembly and the Senate. We have a majority of Democrats. But when the Democrats are acting like Republicans, who the fuck do you trust? Let's talk about Assembly Bill 5. Assembly Bill 5, the film tax credit bill. So, the proposal was to offer tax credits to, I believe, Sony and Warner Brothers for them to build studios here in Nevada. They're going to build them in Summerlin, a couple miles away from where I live, up the street. Sounds great. Jobs! But here's the thing. They talk about hiring Nevadans, but they were given a certain amount of time before they had to hire those Nevadans. That amount of time allows for Californians to come and become Nevadans. So, how many actual Nevadans are or were going to be hired? There's that question. The fact that, again, we're giving these companies tax credits. There are a lot of things that could be done here with the money that could potentially come, jobs and all. But the studios should pay for that. You and I shouldn't be paying for that. And then the thing about the tax credits is those tax credits could also be sold to other businesses by the studios. And whoever gets out of paying taxes, that's just revenue that the state never collects. That's money that the state has to eat. How the fuck are we giving $1.5 billion away for film studios while saying we don't have money to feed starving Nevadans? How the fuck are we giving away $1.5 billion to studios when we say we don't have money to invest in education? That was always my question. Those were always my problems. And the fact that the Democratic Party, fighting for us, tried to push the damn thing through anyway is annoying as fuck. Now, thankfully, that bill failed. But it doesn't really feel like a victory, especially when you have Assembly Bill 4 still becoming law. Like, I wanted to wake up and say, hey, we had some victories, but we wake up to thousands of Nevadans still starving, struggling to feed their families. We wake up to an educational system that is still at the bottom. We wake up to a continued housing crisis. See, that's the Nevada that we live in. And as much as I want to celebrate a victory, I really can't celebrate one right now. We've got a governor. When asked what he thought about protesters and people who disagreed with him, he said, fuck those people. Get your goddamn governor. The guy that's supposed to be leading us. The guy that is asking you to vote for him and give him another term. He said, if you disagree, fuck you. Does that sound like leadership to you?
What kind of shit is that?
While I can be angry with Democrats in Congress who pushed shit through, the reality is still that the President of the United States tried to use the Supreme Court to allow him to continue starving Americans. As much as I want to be angry with the state assembly and the state senate, the reality is the governor of Nevada has still jumped through hoops to avoid housing people and to avoid feeding them, but works his ass off in trying to lock those people up. Again, I wish I had some flowery shit to say, but I don't, because I'm still annoyed as fuck. Because yes, 2026 is coming. Yes, we need a new governor. But I want to remind you that every assembly seat is also up. And quite a few state senate seats are up as well. So make sure you follow Nevada Megaphone. Make sure you check out whereslombardo.com so you can stay informed and up to date. Shit, who knows? I might run for some shit. I don't know. I'm getting out of here, y'all. So until next time, remember, drink your water, brush your teeth, watch your goddamn mouth. I'm Anwar. Y'all be cool.